say, I know you mentioned Michael Carter earlier, who is someone who's really good. I was a pretty big fan of him. So he's North Carolina running back. His backup's really good too. I'm not sure what year he is, but what were your thoughts on him and like what made him stand out compared to some of the other running backs there?
Man, we were talking about it before we got on, man. When we walked over and talked with his family, because they would allow this in the stadium. He scored a touchdown. Did you see the touchdown that he scored? That like they just moved the pile with him and everything. Like it was crazy. And the whole time his family is yelling. And I have the video. Like I'll post it, but you can hear them in the background. When we went over there, I said, what is it about your son that he's not going down on first contact? He's like, no. He was like, that's not what we do. His father's like, that's not how we do it. He was like, if the first guy gets you down, he's like, that's a problem. Jump cuts, just missed tackles, like straight up pushing guys off. Made a nice catch in the backfield. Man, that kid is good, man. You know what? Like, look, we love Najee. We think that he's a stud, right? Bay Area guy, all that stuff. It sounds good. I would not be surprised if we look back on this draft and said Michael Carter's the best running back out of this draft. Like, honestly, man, he looked incredible, man. I was like, get that man in the Shanahan system so he can run for 1,500 yards. Not going to happen, but, I mean, he was incredible, man. Like, I had heard all the buzz about him, and then to actually see it with my eyes right there in the game, I was like, man, this guy's electric, man. He's got like a little bit more juice than everybody else.
So I wanted to touch on my favorite player in the draft. Unfortunately, I don't think he played in the game, but I know he had a hell of a week in practice. What was the buzz around Kadarius Toney? For me, Kadarius Toney is my favorite player in the draft. I think Kadarius Toney has got a little Debo to him. I think he's got a little Percy Harvin, and I think he's the guy that people are looking for in their offense because he allows any creative offensive mind to have ultimate creativity, and I think he's going to transform an offense when he gets there next year. So what was the buzz around him? What do you like about him? What was your thoughts on him?
So the buzz around him was just that he was getting himself open. And you see it on the film, right? And this is so funny because we're talking about like, oh man, I love this guy's technique. Well, the way that he gets himself open is very unorthodox. Like he's not stemming guys. He's he's just like kind of like wiggling a little bit. And then it's like, boom, like he makes his move. And, the problem with Toney, and this was the buzz around him, it's the drops. That one where he really lost the DB and then dropped it. That's obvious, but that had been happening like all week, man, and it sucks, right? So here's the thing. We had a discourse with people there when we're talking. We're all talking through our evaluations. Give me the guy that's going to get open. I think you can fix hands. There's guys who can catch everything, but they can't get away. Give me the guy that's leaving a guy 15 yards down the field, like away from him. Like, even if he drops it, keep going to him. He can't drop them all. So that's what I think. It depends on where that lands on, like, dropping him on your board because you're like, oh, he's got the drops. It happens, but give me the guy that can get himself open, and he's already learned ways to get himself open that aren't orthodox. And that's you know what? Just get open. Don't care how you get open. You can run the most beautiful route. I'll say that's cool. Whatever, you run your weird little clunky route, but if you get open, I don't care, honestly, and all works.
So Blake, if you don't mind, just one more follow-up on Toney real quick. Yeah, what I did wanted to ask you, Jason, is that so I actually don't care about the drops. I know I saw the videos of the drops. Look, I don't care because to me, Kadarius Toney is not your DK Metcalf where you line him up as your Z receiver the entire game where he's away from the formation. You just line him up on the outside and you say, you got to go beat number one corners with go balls and 7 routes and all kinds of stuff like that. To me, he's a weapon. He's an offensive weapon. You line him up in the backfield. You run the wildcat with him. You bring him in. You run a jet sweep with him. You bring him in jet motion to create numbers in the run game. All those kinds of things. How did he translate as an athlete from that standpoint? Because when I watch him in Florida, to me, that's one of the best athletes in college football. Did that stand out when you saw the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, and he flashed in practice, man. He made this 50-50 catch that was just incredible, man. It's just like a guy who wanted to get the ball more, and you see all those things, right? And that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said, you know what, the drops are one thing, and that's fine, but give me the guy who's getting open, and he was open, man. Like, but the drops just put a little bit of damper on it. You're thinking about it the right way, and you're thinking about it the way that I was at that point because we had our discourse and we were talking with people, and I was just like, listen, man, if you can't teach getting open. You can't. Hands, he can just practice. Throw some bricks at him. He'll be all right. He'll get it.
Give him the jugs machine.
Yeah, that's it, dude. Just, but that was the other thing is, after like day 3, I think, You know, everybody left the field. Amari standing right in front of a jugs machine, like, and he's still going, man. And, you know, like, I like it. Maybe that's for optics. I don't know. This is my first Senior Bowl. Maybe it's for optics because you're trying to make a good impression. You know, I thought the best quote of the entire week was when Matt Rule said, you know, I was here last year, you know, because, well, here's what's funny. 29 teams were down in Mobile. What was the one team that wasn't down in Mobile? The Rams.
Mm.
Funny, right? So yeah, that's what I said. I was like, they don't have a pick in the next 12. Yeah, but no, they were really trying to figure a way to get all that stuff done. But Matt Rule said that he got in the elevator with somebody. He didn't want to say who. He said that it was just one elevator ride. This is somebody who's supposed to be highly drafted. He said after the 35-second elevator ride he had with him, he said he knew that he wasn't a fit. Whatever that kid did in his demeanor in 35 seconds killed any shot of Matt Rule wanting to draft him. And he said that was the part that's missing from this Senior Bowl, the personal stuff, like being able to talk to people. You do the Zooms, that's fine. He's like, but the personal touch is what we're missing. For him to know in 35 seconds in an elevator ride that guy's not a fit, that's some high-level evaluating. And that's the one thing that I think I learned from all the scouts they kind of were saying around is I think it was Brad that said it. You have to try to find a way to evaluate integrity, if that makes sense in any way, right? Like I know that sounds cheesy and that's not something you can quantify because you can't do anything on the field with it. But there's some guys that when you listen to them talk, you're like, yeah, he's a fit here, you know, and I like his game, you know, and that's really when you're going to find big fits, you know. So I found that interesting. I really found that interesting that it could take you 35 seconds to know that guy's not going to be on your draft board anymore. Like incredible, man. Frank Darby, that's a good one. Frank Darby looked good, you know, towards the end of the game. It felt like at the end of the game that offense started to pick up. Again, I just talked about Kellen Mond not being what he was the MVP. Des Fitzpatrick had one of the best catches of the game. He also had an egregious drop. You know, it was so weird. It was like the hardest catch of the game he made, and then like he had one that like hit him in the face, and I was just like, dude, he won Offensive Player of the Game. Other guys, Darby looked good. Patrick Jones looked incredible, and that had to do with the fact that, like we were talking, Kellen Mond cannot feel any sort of pocket presence or anything like that, or pocket awareness. He was beating, you know, different ways, hand fighting, bend, inside. He was using it all. Patrick Jones was on display, man. It was weird. Shaka Toney was getting beat all practice, almost every practice, and then in the game, he like beat a guy who was like whipping him the entire time, and it's like, is he a gamer? Mm-hmm. You know, like that's the fun part about all this. Like I literally watched Shaka Toney try to use some sort of spin move, and the guy just take him and just put him on the floor. And then in the game, he goes and he stems him with the right foot, and then he's already back inside and he moved on him. And I was just like, see, like where's that on your reps? You know, like, but some guys are gamers, and that's kind of, you know, how you should be thinking about it. Like that's what makes this whole process so, like, I understand why people love the draft. I understand why people love watching players, right? For this reason, this sort of discourse. You may like something about him I don't like. You may like something about him that you don't, you know, like I love that. I love that sort of dynamic because we're able to bounce ideas. And then when you look back, like we were just talking about it last night, we were like, who were your draft catchers from last year? I was like, bro, I loved Hakeem Butler. I loved, I wanted Hakeem Butler because I thought he was going to be AJ Green. He's like not even in the league anymore. Like I'm talking about like height wise, like and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, when you look back and you look at your misses, that's the funnest. That's the most fun part.
No, that's interesting for sure. I had one thing on you mentioned the Matt Rule elevator thing, and that something came right to my mind. So I don't know if you guys remember Ja'Kai Polite, who was a projected first rounder out of Florida. I really wanted the Packers to get him because we were looking for an outside linebacker after years of Nick Perry. But anyway, he fell to the beginning of the third round due to character concerns, and apparently his interviewing was just like absolutely dreadful. So that's very, very interesting point. And was there any guys that I know you talked on Michael Carter a little bit. Were there any other guys who you thought or that interacted with that had a really good character that you could get from the limited time? I mean, with COVID restrictions and stuff, like face-to-face action with them?
Yeah, the linemen, man, like Dickerson and those guys are about their business, man. I forget the one guy. I think his name is Meaners. He was incredible, man, as center. Yeah, he was really tearing people up, man. It was great. Quentin Morris he struggled a little bit. He's from Bowling Green, I believe. He struggled a little bit on one-on-ones. When he faced Jabril Cox was somebody that I was very surprised with from LSU. He transferred. So I'm watching the film the first day, and I'm like, who is this guy that is blowing everybody up on one-on-ones against tight ends, and he's also like covering? Like, he looked fluid, man. He looked great in this game too. He boosted his stock. And it, this is Melifanu. This is what I noticed about him, right? Because he's a big name, if any. He was playing inside slot. He was playing outside corner. So, the whole idea of maybe him being a safety, I don't know, man. Like, they were showcasing him in a different way, and he was doing well. Like, and, the reason I knew he was doing well because you didn't hear his name called. They didn't throw to him. They didn't throw by his side when he was over there. He had a really great game, man. And, the quarterback play helps the defense a lot. Ian Book is not good at football, man. Man, he had reads wide open, and all he does is just take off and run. And we're just like, what happened? It's right there in front of you. Like, they're not even asking for it. And it was just bad. There was a lot of throws at people's feet. Man, there was just quarterback play was my most disappointing aspect of this, man. It was not fun to watch, honestly, man. Like, Jamie Newman, he excited a little bit, but then in practice he threw like 2 egregious picks where, like, 49er fans put their finger in the ear underneath linebacker. You don't see him, and you just throw it right to him. Those were bad, man. So I mean, it was just fun to watch all those things, because does Jamie Newman take what happened this week and go in the toilet, or does he go and he uses this to springboard? So like that's what makes this interesting. And I'll never doubt a player that is gonna work. And that's what makes this fun, man.